Okay, we'll call the meeting to order, the select board regular meeting this Wednesday evening, November 20th at 6 p.m. And we are conducting business in the Bethel Fire Department meeting room. We do have a full board this evening. We're joined by Sharon Jackson, town manager, and Jessica Grover, clerk, is taking the minutes. We just came back from a site visit at 5 o'clock at the Bethel Rescue Service Center, and we enjoyed that, and want to thank Dave for his taking us around. We appreciate that. And will we please stand and join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're at a point in the meeting where we're open to public comment. If anybody has some comment or thoughts they want to share with the board, now is the time. Please stand, state your name, and I'm glad we listen to what you have to say. Okay. Thank you. We'll continue on. We have no public comment this evening. Adjustments to the agenda. Do not believe we have any.
The only thing is on 10D, we're going to table that for 10-4 meeting.
Okay.
And on F, we won't need any action on that, and I think I'll explain that. I think we'll do that on that.
Okay, we just have a couple updates to the agenda. We do have copies there if you want to follow along. On business items 10D, that item will be tabled. When we come to it, we'll table it. And then 10F, there'll be no action, and we'll review that at that time. We're going to continue on. We have a couple of public hearings this evening. The first one is for the on-premise liquor license renewal for Mountain Social, located at 43 Main Street in Bethel, and I'll open that public hearing. Anybody have any comments? Anybody from Mountain Social?
This is just a renewal, right?
This is a renewal, that's correct. And we haven't received any emails or written comments?
No.
No? Okay. All right, well, hearing no comments for the public hearing, we will close that public hearing. We have a second one, and this is for an on-premise liquor license renewal for Gems and Company LLC. They're doing business as the Modern Barn, located at 19 Summer Street in Bethel. We will open that public hearing. Any comments? Anyone from the Modern Barn? Yes, I thought I recognized you. Thank you. You want to introduce yourself?
Jessica Stasnos, owner of Mountain Barn.
Okay.
Been in business almost 6 years, just a renewal.
Thank you for coming. Any emails or written comments?
No.
Okay, well, hearing no comments, we will close that public hearing. And we will take action on both of those renewals a little bit later in the agenda. We're ready for action on the minutes, and this is for the regular select board minutes of our November 6, 2024 meeting. Are there any amendments to the minutes?
I definitely have some. On the minutes, when we're talking about Wade and what he was introducing to us, I think that whole paragraph needs a little wordsmithing, because he wasn't asking us to be co-signers on the grant. He was just asking for a letter of support.
Okay.
And then he was also saying that we could, if they got the grant, when we looked at everything over, we could opt out and not worry about including Holbach in that. I did write up what I would like to see there, but you can do whatever feels good to you.
No problem. However, I wasn't there. It was harder to
I don't blame you.
Yeah, no, that's why I wanted to make sure.
You can add additional comments to it.
Yeah.
He did a brief verbal overview, and then we also had written content.
Mhm.
So the first sentence does state what the written content has, but you can listen to the tape for the additional comments.
Yeah, I think it's just like, as opposed to the opportunity, it was more of, he had an intention to do this grant, and his vision included coal block. We didn't have to buy into that part yet, but he just wanted to know if he could kind of include us in that, project proposal, and also if we could just write a letter of support for him to move forward. It wasn't committing us to anything.
Okay.
And then on 5, Michelle Cole, I don't think she added, an update from the town's auditor. I think we moved it, didn't we?
It missed making the agenda.
Ah.
We knew it was going to, but it didn't actually make it on, so we added it to the agenda.
Well, then never mind.
Yeah,
Strike that one, just the first one.
Anybody else? Thank you.
yeah, when it said on 12B, review sewer budget, it says the town manager presented the budget to the select board, Michelle Cole motioned to approve the sewer budget, but we weren't approving it, right? We just went over it last time, so it should just be, we reviewed it and added.
We tabled it.
I don't
We
know
table-
if we tabled it, didn't we just?
Put it for the,
Because it was just written as a review sewer budget, I think you just went over it.
I don't think it was tabled.
I don't think we made action on it.
Yeah.
We didn't take any
on it.
action.
It's brought back to tonight.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So if you just listen to the tape again,
Yep.
we didn't approve it, we didn't table it, we reviewed it to take action at another
Okay.
time.
And this is, sorry, in the first page, my name is spelled incorrectly, so. And there's one other thing. I think it was under select board items. It said that I went to the AdCog planning meeting, but I also mentioned that Meryl and I went to the emergency management training, and it'd be just great to include that, just because I think it's I sort of want to touch on that later too, but just so it's on record that we.
So what
go.
meeting?
And we got our certificate.
What training did you go to? The emergency management training? Is that what? What
It
is
was
the name
the
of the training?
emergency
Yeah, I
management,
have it.
yeah, it was for NIMS.
The NIMS
Yeah.
training.
NIMS
Okay.
training,
And if you did get certificates, please bring
Oh,
them.
I did,
so we
yeah, I
can-
brought
yeah.
it.
Whole
Is that
emergency
it?
management. It was over, in Woodstock.
Do you have that down, Jess?
Yeah.
NIMS training.
And I can bring you my certificate.
Does anybody else have anything further? All right, I have, you got that one, Sarah. 15B, towards the end.
Okay.
Because of how the agenda and the minutes flow, it looks like we discussed the assessor's contract in executive session. We did not. It was on the agenda too, and we consented not to do it in executive session. So however wordsmithing you can do to say we discussed it and acted on it in open session.
I'll just add a line in there indicating that we discussed it in open session.
If nobody has anything else, I will move to approve the minutes with the amendments.
Second.
Any other comments on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor? And the motion passes unanimous. We're on to 7, the acceptance of grants, donations, reimbursements, and/or sales of materials. We have one action item to discuss and take action to accept a $500 donation from Mike Klein, Go Aviation, Inc., for pilot aviation training resources. Sharon, can you give us a little update on that?
So at the airport, they are going to be doing aviation training on Saturdays. And Mike Klein is one of the pilots there, and he owns one of the hangars. He contributed, donated $500 for any resources that might be needed to be bought for that.
Is that a revenue generating?
No, there's no cost for the training. The $500 will buy any of the resources needed. It's not intended to be a program that will be cost anything.
Okay.
The pilots and Randy will be doing the training.
Okay.
So it's not the pilot's license or anything?
No, it's to just do different, they're calling it training, but it's to update on different procedures coming up and things like that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So is it for just people who own planes at the airport, or just it's open to the public?
It's open to pilots.
If that's
Where
what
do they
it's.
come from?
There's a community of pilots at the airport.
Mhm.
They are getting together on Saturdays to review and go over training, and there's been training materials that have been donated, and it's just pilots getting together, using the airport as a training center. Like anything else in any profession, continuing education is a big part of any profession, and pilots, there's private pilots and there are professional pilots, but if you are a private pilot, you need to be as professional as the professionals, otherwise you may die. So
Fair.
it's just a group of pilots that want, and also it is promoting the airport for other airport pilots that base their planes at other airports, would fly up and be a part of the community of aviation to continue their education. So there's no cost, there's nobody getting paid, it's just the community being strong.
You just invite pilots from all over the state?
It's just there and it's happening. It's almost a coffee clutch. People get together for coffee to discuss business, their industry, it's kind of more or less the same thing. That's the way I understand it. I've been invited, so.
Thanks, Frank. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, I'll make a motion to accept the $500 donation from Go Aviation Inc., Mike Klein, for pilot aviation training resources. Thank you. Any other comments? All those in favor? And the motion passes unanimous. We're up to town manager report. Sharon.
So Monday, Tuesday, and today, our auditors were here. They began the field work for the fiscal year '24 audit. They will be back again, but they have enough to get started with for now. All of our files are at the town office, so the last 3 days, the girls had to keep going back and forth to get all of the documents needed for the audit. Tomorrow, Nate, the recreation director, and I will go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting. We were invited to that to talk about the Chamber's plan for the Christmas events and decorating Main Street. I can update you that after the meeting. We have some office closures in November, Thursday and Friday, November 28th and 29th. The office will be closed and the other departments will be closed for Thanksgiving. Tuesday, December 4th, the office will close at noontime for Christmas and will be closed Wednesday, December 25th. Wednesday, January 1st, the office will also be closed. Octagon Services is the company that has been doing the mold remediation and also the asbestos cleanup. They just finished the basement, the portion of the basement that was having the dry ice blast done to it and the soda blast done to it. When That was done after they cleaned the initial basement out and cleaned the upstairs, two of the offices upstairs, because of the air quality rating in those two offices. And these two blasts created a lot more dust in the offices upstairs because of all of the cracks in the floor and openings in the floor. So that now has to be cleaned again, and they will clean that again. As part of their contract, it doesn't add any more to it. I talked with Matt, the lead person on the job. I'm gonna try not to cough. And they expect to have that cleaning done by next Tuesday. We were hoping to be able to move back December 2nd and 3rd, Monday and Tuesday, but we're not going to be able to now move back that week. The cleaning for that has to be done upstairs now again is going to be scheduled probably December 2nd, which is the Monday after Thanksgiving. And then that will require the entire office to be cleaned. So in coordinating that with the company that comes in and does the air quality testing, they will contact him after the cleaning is completed. He will come in and do the air quality testing again, and then there's a 2-day wait for the results on that. If everything comes back normal, then we will have the okay, we can move back in. If not, then Octagon will have to come back in and clean again. And that's all part of the contract as well. It's not additional cost. So we're waiting on those variables to come together to see what we can actually move back over. And then today I talked with Chris Sanborn, who is our IT person. He's the one that has to actually disconnect all of our printers, computers, and our server from here. And then they have to be moved by the highway department back over to the office to be reconnected over there. So after December 10th, he's not going to be available until probably the mid-January. So we're hoping that we can get everything that I just talked about lined up to be so that he can do the connecting and disconnecting either the 9th or the 10th, which would be the following week, and then we can move. Because we're gonna need 2 days to move, and I have that as an agenda item to talk about. So that's where we are with the cleaning right now. And then we have rescheduled Field Electric to come and install the LED lights at the town office and the citizen area, December 16th through the 19th. That was supposed to have been done, but we had to cancel that, reschedule it because of the cleaning for Octagon. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Does anyone have any questions for Sharon?
I had a question, but I don't know whether to say it or late, just about the moisture, before everybody moves back in, taking care of some of the moisture issues, because I did look at Randy's report, and he talked about there not being gutters and that the water comes straight down to the bulkhead. And so and then it also talked about maybe angling the water so that water moves away from the building and not straight down into around the foundation. So are those things that we can talk about?
Those are things that we need to talk about as a board.
Mm-hmm.
They're not part of the cleaning process or anything, but you can bring that up under Selectmen's items.
Okay.
But that, I thought you were gonna ask about the dehumidifiers, because I
Oh.
did forget, those have come in.
Okay.
And so, after everything is all clean, then we have a plumber coming in to install the dehumidifiers in the basement.
And so they'll drain right into a drain they won't have to be emptied?
I don't know how they work.
Okay.
These,
Hopefully you don't have to empty
these are
them
the
every day, 'cause that'll-
dehumidifiers that were recommended by the,
Every 2 hours.
by Octagon. They both cover 3,300 square feet. There's 2 of them, so that is more than what we have for square footage in that area.
And I would say that they will be hooked up into a drain system if a plumber is involved,
Right, right.
because otherwise you don't need a plumber.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Well, I mean, that's the only plumbing to a dehumidifier.
Yeah.
You don't plumb water to it, so it's water going out, so I would say, yeah, the answer to your question,
Yeah.
yes.
So I think we want to talk about this more at the next meeting, where we have more information.
On,
You know, whether a plumber is gonna put this in, and at one point you wanted us to maybe walk downstairs too. Would that be
yes,
way later?
once everything is all clean, yes, I do want to do the walkthrough just like we did here. But the plumber is definitely installing them.
Mhm.
And then are there any changes to the wood pellet system before we go back in and start heating?
All of the
again?
wood pellets have been removed.
She needs the dust, the chamber.
But you're gonna get more pellets, I assume, to run the wood pellets furnace?
Yes, that is the plan. The other thing that we need to discuss is another optional heating method there, such as heat pumps, which Field Electric is providing us with. They provided us with a quote as they worked with Efficiency Maine for heat pumps for air conditioning units a while back. And so I did ask him, after I talked to Octagon about the pellet system, if he could provide us with a quote for the same heat pumps, but for the primary source of heating and then secondary with the cooling. And he is working on that quote right now because Efficiency Maine has a better plan to offer better incentives if the heat pumps are a primary source of heat. So I'll have all of that in another meeting. They don't have that quote ready yet.
And can we also add to that, just information, I believe, Michelle, it might have been you that had mentioned when they installed the pellet stills, that there was a part that they could have got, but they didn't, that catch dust, between the auger and like the actual burner.
Yeah, so no, I think what was identified, it was that there was a part that the technician who services that was waiting for to put on it when this all happened. I have learned more in regards to the pellet system, like it can be scheduled when the pellets come through. So if you hear it at 6 o'clock at night, that's because it was scheduled to be at 6 o'clock at night because it didn't work during the day. So there's, with the change of personnel that's happened over the last years or so, Maine Energy System has offered to come in and talk with staff so that they can learn about the system to hopefully not have the issues that they were experiencing before.
I think anything that we can do to also decrease the dust, since that is where that particular, both of those particular strains of mold were coming from, is the dust and the wood debris and things of that nature.
That was left out around.
Yeah, but it was,
Yeah, but the pellets themselves are in a self-contained
Sure.
room.
Right.
So the pellets themselves did not have an effect, but it was
It was
the dust. If you don't take out the ashtray, if you take it out and you get it on the floor.
Sure.
So there's, there's some upkeep and responsibility that comes with it. So, yes, that's why I hope there's a learning curve,
Yeah.
so we can have, somebody understands what needs to happen.
The pellets that were enclosed, we had to get rid of them? Or
Yes.
They
They've all
got,
been drained.
they got rid of them because they wanted to. Yeah, they just wanted to, because they were afraid, and the
Yeah.
pellets themselves are fine, but they were afraid of the door that's to the room that has the pellets in an enclosed unit of the airflow that was coming in underneath it. So, just as precaution
It's
with
a safety
Octagon.
precaution
Yeah.
not to use them.
Well,
Yeah,
Octagon is guaranteeing there will be no mold there. So they clean the whole place out, and so they can give you the guarantee. They wouldn't be able to give you a guarantee if you left old stuff behind,
Right,
for whatever reason.
but I
you
just don't
left
want
behind.
it to happen again, because it.
Because we're gonna turn on the pellet stove.
well, it's a,
There will be
it's
more
a
dust.
boiler, but,
Well,
it's,
pellets.
the pellets themselves are fine. They just wanted, in that room, they wanted to get to that room and clean it, and didn't want to run any of the heating systems that are down there while they're being cleaned.
I
I
thought
think it's a
read that
non-issue, I think it's a non-issue, I think the pellets have nothing to do with it. They're all enclosed, it's got nothing to do with it.
It was
I
whatever
have to
was
reread
outside
it,
there.
but I could have sworn they said, dust from
Yeah,
the
the
pellets,
pellets.
you know, the pellets. But maybe I'm wrong.
No,
I think there was dust around the unit, I believe that was happening.
No, because they were talking about dust on other, like, actual, like, physical dust on, like, papers and things like that, but they
Yeah.
said dust from the pellets.
So I think we'd have to look at
Which-
that.
yeah, I think let's look at it.
Yeah, because, again, in that report, they said that you could see visual mold too.
Yeah, no, they
The
definitely
other,
said
the
that.
other thing is I would imagine that there's gonna be upkeep to that basement. You're just not gonna turn on, dehumidifiers and you're all done with the mitigation of mold.
no.
You're not gonna be able to collect dust down there,
But
because
it's
you're
just
gonna have to clean it
It's
out.
an interesting choice of heating for, you know, that someone on the staff now has to take care of that, and their job is to take care
Well,
of
it's,
it.
It's,
It's
it's,
my opinion.
it's, you know, as any facility, we were down at the rescue barn, and they're
Yeah,
looking
oil.
at, and they're taking care of the generator, and they're looking at everything, and, you have to, it's a renewable energy
Yeah.
resource, very, very efficient, and what you need to do, it's automated, and once a month, if even that, you need to take the ash out and go put it in your garden, and
Turn off the snow.
and, but you just need to understand the system.
Yeah.
Everybody's familiar with an oil system, people are becoming familiar with propane system,
Sure.
and it just, there can be an education. It competes with the oil burner that's down, and we talked about that before, because they all need to have airflow. And when the oil burner was put in a couple of years ago, an emergency for the Bethel Citizen, it caused it to suck the air from the pellets, so it was competing. So there's little things like that to kind of understand that might be helpful.
I think it all comes underneath maintenance. We have people in there cleaning the office, we have people that need to do other things that need to be cleaned. That's what I mean, that's what I'm saying. So I think it's a non-issue, I just think it's part of doing business. The town owns it, the town paid for it.
No, but I mean, I think it was identified in the report as contributing, but I mean, you don't need
the
a
report.
report.
We
Yeah.
read the report, and we're getting through the cleaning now, and there are items that we want to address, right? Like, I know about the lack of a gutter over where the bulkhead is and such like that. We're definitely gonna have the opportunity to talk about it again.
Yeah.
So, let's put it on as an agenda item.
Thank you.
All right. So we're still under town manager report. Are there any other questions for Sharon? All right, hearing none, thank you, Sharon. We'll continue. 9, board committee report. I believe there's none.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. We're on to our business items. A, discussion and action to approve the application for an on-premise liquor license for Mountain Social located at 43 Main Street, Bethel, Maine. I will move approval.
Second.
Any comments, thoughts, questions? This is our first one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, it's nice that that.
Through the electronic system.
Maybe you like it more.
Did everything seem to be in order?
Mhm.
Jess?
it's interesting, there's like, not really a place for a name, right?
There's no signature required anymore.
No, but I mean,
Oh.
just the name of the, I know, like, I remember, like, on the GEMS one, I always have to write my name on it 100 times, but there's not really, like, the name of any person. It,
This form is exactly how the
yeah,
state sends
yeah,
it
I know,
now.
I'm just like, saying it's interesting that.
Any other comments or questions? We do have the applicant here. Do you have any questions?
We do.
No, this is not.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Right, for your modern barn. All right, if there are any comments or questions, all those in favor? All right, it's unanimous and the motion carries. Next, we have discussion and action to approve the application for an on-premise liquor license for Gems and Company LLC, doing business as Modern Barn, located at 19 Summer Street in Bethel, Maine. And I will move approval.
Second.
All right, any questions, comments? Now we have the applicant here. If there's any questions? Everything seemed to be in order, yes? Oh, if there are any comments or questions, all those in favor? And it's unanimous, the motion carries. Thank you for attending.
Okay.
All right, we are going to hear a presentation in regards to the energy audit now. We have, we're joined by John Snell. If you don't mind just giving a little introduction. And I think we also have some members from the Conservation Committee here. If you guys just introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, I'm Ann Steffi.
Yeah,
Jeff Sloan.
great. Thank you for attending here. They've been working on this as well. So take it away, John.
Someone might do those, right? I'll do it. Great idea, Mayor.
And
Is that okay?
it's a little small, I think without the light,
No?
you see how this looks?
That looks much
It's
better.
better.
A little better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you see us?
I'm seeing my way back now. Wait, hide in the corner and pretend I'm not really here. My name is John Snell, I'm from Otis Field, I came up and over the hill here, and I got a call last spring to see if I could do an energy assessment for the town through some funding from the state. Ann or Sharon, do you want to explain where that money came from?
Well, Muriel, you ended up,
Yeah,
Right.
should explain.
yeah, so Community Resiliency Partnership is an option for towns to kind of opt into a grant pool of some state money. I applied for a $50,000 grant, not matching, important. And basically wrote it to get a little support for our wastewater department, for some infrastructure upgrades, a garage door, which a truck very nicely backed up into immediately upon putting it in, but it's fixed now, and some casings, other doors, and then another part of that was some money put aside for an energy audit. And I did reach out to John at that time, but then things got a little crazy. And then Sarah took over just a couple months ago and made it all happen.
Well, and the conservation.
And the Conservation Commission, so sorry.
Yeah.
Great, so this is funding that's available throughout the state to help do an initial assessment of where do we stand. And the process I used was to go through each of the buildings. Scott and Toby are here. I didn't spend much time in the buildings, maybe an hour or so, maybe less. And also bothered Sharon and others to get utility bill information to try and get a handle on what's going on with energy use per square foot. My report tonight is going to be a summary of a more detailed report that a few folks are plowing through right now, just to give an idea of what the energy use and cost is in the town, what some things that you might want to keep aware of moving forward that could be done to move things that are more economically and environmentally sustainable. There's been a roller coaster ride in the last few years in oil prices, propane, and electricity. So how can towns in this area stabilize that longer term? And I've got about 12 slides. I'm going to take 10 minutes or less to go through it, and then can open it up for questions. The final outcome will be a report, a copy of this presentation that can be put up on the website or not. But the idea is to give some high-level cost estimates. If you did X, Y, and Z, how much would it cost, and what do we need to do? Interesting hearing this discussion about town office, because that's an interesting building. There's a lot going on there. In terms of cost, you're just shy of a couple $100,000. Electricity is about half of your utility bill. It's a broad range of things. A few of the buildings have propane, oil. Let's see, are those numbers sharp enough? It's a little better. I have an eye inspection coming up soon. It's sort of like the, how's it better or worse? And for the use, you can see how much electricity is being consumed. Everyone's using some electricity. The one number I don't have yet is the street lights. I'm not sure how much trouble it would be to get the bills for that, whether it's one bill or not. I just asked for the facilities, but we could fill that in if that's something that's easy to use. The price is all over the place. I've got the propane cost here. Sharon looked at this and said, this seems a little high for propane, and $1 per gallon cost in the $5 to $6 range is what it has been. What did you get this year for a contract price, Sharon?
Our contract price of $1.99.
Yeah, so that'll be a little better this year, a lot better. And you can see how the range in electricity price runs from the treatment plant. Toby uses so much, and it's a nice steady use of it, that's the best rate that you've got in town right now. The parks, there are a lot of little bills that all you're doing is really paying a monthly fee. And those monthly fees have gone up dramatically. That might be worth looking at a little more closely. Because you're just keeping an account open and providing a little bit of electricity. There may be some creative ways there. On the slide, I've also put down for the equivalent amount of energy, what are you paying? Electricity is really expensive, $65. These numbers are a little hard to see per kilowatt hour. When you run it through a heat pump, it's actually very competitive because heat pumps are so efficient. It's actually a better price to buy electricity at the full rate, run it through a heat pump, than it is to pay for oil, propane, almost as cost effective as pellets. What I'm finding in communities like Bethel is there are three things to pay attention to. One is to install or procure renewable energy the best you can, because it's relatively cost effective and you can get a nice stable price for 20 years or a discount on the current price. High efficiency equipment, if you're going to move towards renewable electricity, let's maximize that benefit. There's some technology now which is fabulous. High efficiency electric heating that also provides cooling and is also a good resource for domestic hot water. And then finally, doing a little better with insulation and air sealing, just reducing the use per square foot. On the renewable electricity side of things, I just went out and tried to see how much solar could you install here. You don't need all this. Right now you're using about 300,000 kilowatt hours of electricity. If you put in heat pumps everywhere, that would be another 100,000. You could produce 1.6 million kilowatt hours a year. So you probably don't want to do that unless you're finding that some of the residents in the community want to use it. The airport numbers will probably be a little bit lower than that. The treatment plant has some nice areas where you could put some ground-mounted or pole-mounted systems. The town office, I said you could put some roof mounts. I waffle on that one, that's an odd building, you may or may not want to do that. But this is a range of what you could do. We also looked at the town farm, and there may be some opportunities out there, but the transmission lines out in front of there aren't three-phase. So you'd have to tie into a three-phase line that goes up to the ski area that's about 3 miles away, and that cost is unknown. High-efficiency heat pumps, these are the heat pumps for the town hall in Woodstock, just down the road. They have oil in their building, and they have the heat pumps, and they use mostly the heat pumps and reduce their total cost by about 20%. So what you have here are cost estimates for the ductless mini splits, variable refrigerant systems, and ground source. It's sort of good, better, best in terms of efficiency. The incentives right now for efficiency main are really good for the variable refrigerant systems right now. Otisfield's looking at them, and they're actually more cost effective than the mini splits. And you just have one unit on the outside serving multiple systems inside. It's a little more efficient. So just want to draw attention to that given what's going on at the town office right now. And the numbers 10, 21, 7, 2, those are the estimated sizes that you need, 10, 20 tons, just so you can start to do ballpark things. You really need someone to come in and give you better numbers than that. But that's driven by how much energy you're using now with whatever system you're using. You do have a mini split over at the wastewater treatment plant. You can ask Toby how that's working to get a flavor of it. But there's some nice opportunities to do all these things. It's usually best when you're doing a major renovation to look at these things rather than just replace it for the sake of replacing. But you now have some cost numbers and a few options to look at. In terms of reducing energy use, and I'll go through this and we can stop and go back to any of these slides later. The town garage and ambulance barn are using the most per square foot. The DPW garage, I think it's installation, Scott. I think your mechanical systems are all reasonably good. They could be a little more efficient. But steel buildings, and Woodstock had the same issue. They're getting a quote to re-insulate their building. But the operation seems pretty straightforward. The temperatures are reasonable. So that could be an insulation issue. This is the insulation in the ambulance barn. I don't know what's going on with the ambulance barn, whether it's mechanical. It's just using a lot per square foot. Maybe my square foot number is wrong, and it's a 6,000 square foot building, and it's only using half that. So that would take a little more head scratching. I don't have a good answer for that, but this gives you a flavor for the use per square foot. That gives you an apples to apples. You know, what are the town office and the fire station, and especially the airport terminal doing to have really good use per square foot? I like to set for new construction a number of about a total KBTU energy use per square foot of 25, and you can see all of these buildings are over that. But that's pretty aggressive when you have an opportunity to start from scratch. So you're all higher than what I would like the buildings to be at some point. So there's room for improvement there. You can spend a lot of money doing this. What you'll need to do is pick and choose. So the solar systems are the big ticket. And you probably won't do all of that, but you can see for the heat pumps, it's still a significant amount of money and making the buildings all more efficient. You probably do the airport terminal last, maybe not at all. That's probably the best you could do. So you'll have to pick and choose, but here's a range of what we're talking about. And all of these would benefit from additional grant assistance from Community Resilience Partnership. You can get $75,000. A proposal to help out with some of these investments. Efficiency Maine has some great incentives. USDA, a few grants, that's more complicated. And you can actually send in a request to the IRS and get incentives now for your energy efficiency and solar stuff. I'm not sure how that's gonna play out over the next few years, but if you like paying your own taxes, the town can do it too now, just for energy projects and get a 30% rebate after the fact for, if you're willing to fill out a lot of paperwork. So that's worth paying attention to as well. There's also a municipal lease option that's relatively new that Efficiency Maine has been putting forward, where you borrow some money if the whole thing makes sense. And you package everything together and just do it once. And that is something you can look into a little more closely. And if I were to give you a final recommendation, it's from this report, if you can get a working group, whether it's conservation or another standing group, working with town staff who really know these buildings well, just review the recommendations in this report and look out over the next 5 years. What are the things that we could do over 5 years where, oh, maybe you're replacing a boiler anyway, or you're gonna be evacuating town office because of a mold problem and you need to do something better. Just seize the moment, what is it we can do now? And for the solar, that's probably best done in a package where you look at everything and put that out to bid and say, okay, here's all the potential, what can you do for us? Arrange the financing, tell us when it will be built, and let's just get it done, because the pricing will be significantly better if you do a larger project than a smaller project. We can turn the lights on now, and I can go back to any of these slides, but that's all the talking I want to do right now without being prompted by a question. And is there someone who would like to guide the questions? Has like 5 of them already lined up, and would like to spur discussion.
Any questions?
Well, I'm Jeff Sloan on the Conservation Commission. So we met, number one, with Amy Scott today, who's with the Northern Forest Center. They have resources that they provide at no cost to the town for doing a whole bunch of this planning, applying, kind of gathering all of this together. There is obviously a wide range of things the town of Bethel could do, or nothing. I guess I would say the Conservation Commission is committed, with the guidance of the selectmen, to kind of figure this out. Working with Sharon, we've offered our help as much as we can to track stuff down and get information and stuff, so that this is not additional big job for Sharon as well. So I think there's a whole lot of information that we can gather over the coming months and provide to you. I guess we'd start with that.
Thank you. Oh, we have.
And I don't need to keep talking. I talk enough as it is.
No, I mean, we have John here now.
Yeah.
Any
Well,
questions?
part of this, we are under a little bit of a time crunch, because the first Community Resilience Partnership grant ends, we need to report mid-December.
Yeah.
Well,
Is it?
it's been extended.
Extended, but the extension ends,
Yeah.
right, mid-December? So, I think you said we have about $4,800 left to.
Well, actually, if John's bill is gonna be the same as he quoted, we also have another, bill that's being submitted on this for upgrades at the, treatment plant for the Headworks program. So there's approximately $700 that will be left in this account.
Oh, okay. Oh. I was just gonna ask you what you thought, maybe we could spend that last little bit of money, because otherwise we have to return it to the state. But I was thinking, in the packet, you mentioned the electricity monitoring devices that you can hook up and see where electricity may be. Is that something that is worth doing, or?
Yeah, what's what's in the report is you can put devices in the electric panels to understand a little more clearly what's going on. And the places where that would be most useful would probably be at the wastewater treatment plant, because it's just 1 meter that comes in. You have no idea how much electricity the office is using. They're primary, most of them are a couple hundred, $250 or so. And an electrician needs to install it, you need to open the panel, so you want someone who knows what they're doing. So that would be a $350, $400 investment, where if there's one building where you wanted to dig in a little bit more, and the town office may be another example of that, where you can figure out just when are the lights turning on, what's using most of the electricity. If you're talking about putting in dehumidifiers, it might be worthwhile to put in some monitors there, because they use a lot of electricity. And it would give information for Scott that he could look at online while he's observing what's going on, or whoever's in charge of the facility to see what's going on. The other opportunity is over at the airport, the use per square foot for electricity is really high. And they have lights turning on, just boom. And you really need to replace the outdoor lights. You could do an investment with those outdoor lights for $700 probably, and be way ahead of the game. If there's one thing I saw that was screaming, please do this.
So
It was.
this is the parking lot, or just off?
It's for the airplane
The runway?
landings, where the planes come in,
The apron.
and
Oh,
you'll
yeah,
see
they're
about
like
4 or 5 of
special-
them
they're
on the
specialty
outside.
aviation.
So they don't, everything's LED except for those 7 or 8 gigantic old-fashioned
Yeah.
lights that are just hanging down. And maybe you only do 1 or 2, but that would be nice to tackle if you don't do the monitoring. But there is some pretty fancy electrical equipment there that maybe you want to find out how much electricity it's using.
Yeah, that seemed crazy, how much it was per square foot there. I don't know.
Well, remember, it's a small little
Yeah,
waiting
yeah,
room,
yeah,
so
right,
it's not completely fair.
right.
Police and fire department often have a lot of electronic equipment. That's not really fair, that's not a normal building. So yes, it's high per use per square foot, but it's taking care of the entire terminal out there.
Any other questions?
Well, I just wanted to add, we talked at our meeting this afternoon that, by December 17th or 18th is the deadline for applying for the next round of $75,000. And I guess we would ask for the approval to go ahead and apply for that $75,000 we can spend between now and that December date, figuring out what exactly makes the most high priority sense for use of that $75,000, but we would need your approval to go ahead and do that.
Okay,
It would be at no cost to the town, obviously. It's no matching, it's no.
No direct cost. There's
No
no direct cost.
no direct cost.
As a cautionary tale, I will say this about the community resiliency grant. It does require staff time, and I still think we just have so many things that we need to work through, that I would be reluctant to apply. Also, we had like 4 extensions on this particular round, so maybe just like give it a little time and they'll forget that we did that, and then they'll like us again, kind of thing. But I just think like, when we write the grant, I don't want to rush it, and I want to make sure that whoever is having to deal with the projects that we're writing for, like, that they're really involved with it and on board. It was certainly not my intention to cause a huge giant headache for Toby for many times, but I'm sure that all of the work that had to be done down there on specific deadlines with updates, like, that's annoying, and he's one of, 3 people down there, and it was probably undue. So that's just my cautionary tale with that grant and where we are specifically as a town, as we're still kind of like moving to have policies in place, and I think this is like still a good opportunity and we should still be thinking about these things, but I wouldn't rush to get money until both the staff and the people writing the grant are on the total same page and there's an assurance that what you're writing will get done in a timely manner. Otherwise, it just makes us not look great and decreases the chance that we'll get a grant in the future, not just from community resilience, but from other grants as well. So I think we should rest the cycle.
Well, there are two yearly cycles, right? There's
Correct,
the
yeah,
summer
there's the spring cycle.
and another six,
Yeah.
6 months.
So the spring would be, I'd
So
be
could
more
we-
open to that if, again, it made sense for what was going on in the town and whoever would be in charge of making those upgrades felt like it was something that was digestible to their workload.
Well, then can we get approval to submit it? We'll look at it for the springtime.
So I think the direction I'd like to see this go is, we've got a lot of information all at once,
Yeah.
and to try and digest it. We all know it's gonna take money, where does it come from? And I can appreciate your energy for wanting to get those grants. Meryl makes some great points. The other piece that we learned going through this is, until we, try not to get the cart before the horse, and if we had the opportunity to do this grant over again, we may have tweaked it a little bit different to apply it to more places than just the wastewater treatment plant. So, I'd like to digest this some more, or have others invited to digest it some more, and maybe have the conservation committee look at this, ask for more information, we get our final report, keep reporting to the selectmen, and then in the new year, we're gonna be starting our discussions for capital items.
Yeah.
And these things would fit in there. And then that would also, if we decide that we wanna pursue one of these pieces that is a capital improvement, then we can work together to try and find the money, I think.
What about implementing a 5-year plan? I mean, that would be,
Well,
that
plan-
should be essential.
I would think that might be probably the best product that would come out of it.
So how do we as a conservation commission, put a plan and bring it to you and say, here's the plan, you approve it, or do we have the select board? I mean, how does that happen?
How do you wanna see it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put something out there and you guys can say if I'm on the right track. So, yes, if you digest it and put it into a 5-year plan, periodically check in with us. I mean, we think times are gonna be changing. We don't know what administrations are gonna be. We don't know what monies are gonna be available. We have other projects to consider within the capital plan. So develop it, keep in contact with us. We'll put you on the agenda to speak with us, and then it'll be also part of a larger conversation after the first of the year on it. So if you don't mind putting it together and we work together as far as giving you feedback as you progress. Does that sound fair?
I think just prioritizing what out of, like, isolating the points that would seem like, okay, we could probably do this, it would have, the most impact for the least amount of work. That kind of stuff would all be really helpful, and then maybe we either add it as an agenda item or workshop or whatever we choose to do, kind of work through it and finalize it, and then we'll have something to bring to capital and be like, here's the plan, isn't that fancy?
Okay, so it's a yearly budget kind of thing, but if we have, as John suggests, you bring a big package, something that will happen over the years. I know how I would do that at home, I don't know how you would do that here.
That's a capital plan.
Yeah.
That's a
Okay,
super
so you will,
Yeah, so there's the
Plan out
budget,
for
there's the
years.
budget committee, that's for the year, and then
Yeah.
a capital plan
Okay,
is saving
okay.
up for big projects.
I
think the main thing is that we know we need the money, so if someone can get started on it so that we don't minimize it like we did before as far as just for the treatment center. Do you know what I'm saying? In other words, get someone, we know we need that money, we know that we can use that money. So why not start working to get that money, even if it doesn't get in
Cause you wanna
the
know,
spring?
you wanna know exactly what it's for.
Oh, you have to know, that has to be in the.
Yeah, I think they kind of want it, Sharon has a.
I think what's happening is we're being asked to do something
Yeah.
on something that we just received tonight. So, and it's very hard to hear this.
No,
No.
no, it's an overall, it's
Yeah.
just an overall grant that we can use for this plus whatever.
And
It-
it-
Right,
It's coming
and
up,
we are
we're just now getting it, talking about it, and I don't know if this is the time to make a decision on it. I haven't had time to think about it, and I haven't gotten through,
No, I don't
watching.
think
Yeah, no, I don't think we're making this, I think we're trying to plot a path as how to utilize the information that we just received.
this
And
is just information, there's no specific project that we.
So we're discussing,
a path to.
So this is the-
Yes, they're educating me. so
And they're
I do it.
asking what the charge is, how should they use this?
Right, so Sharon had her hand up, for Sharon.
okay, so we're not making a decision on a grant.
No,
No.
Okay, so then we change the subject matter here along the way. Okay,
So what I wanted to say was, in this grant that Merrill applied for, the $50,000, it was written for specific things. And we would not be able to use the balance of the money to put towards anything in the report, like we were talking about monitors and that. We can't use the money for that. So after finding the $3,300 that I can apply now to this grant, $50,000 grant, that is for the Headworks project that just completed, that leaves about a $700 balance left. We can close this balance out before the December deadline date, because that 700 can be part of the administrative fees that we had to pay, that it costs for staff to do all of this work. So we can close this $50,000 grant out, which that has to be the number one thing we have to do before even considering applying for another grant. I feel the December 17th deadline is too soon to do that, because there's no plan when the grant is written. If it's written in the spring, then from now until then, you can work on exactly what from this report you can gather, and that can all be put into the grant, because whatever is written in there is the only thing that you can do this. I think that's one of the reasons this grant was extended as long as it was, because it was very specific. And, we learned from how we do things.
Not to mention the person who said they would take care of everything, great.
So, I think everybody, and if you need more copies, I can, make them of these reports for you. But all the department heads have hard copies, the select board and myself. You can all review them within the individual departments and see how you can use what's in here to put in a 5-year plan. Like, we have a 5-year capital plan for long-term purchases in all our departments. This can be done the same way. That's what I would just recommend.
that makes sense.
You have a question?
Just one more comment. So, the Northern Forest Center has dollars for communities to do planning. Is it okay if the commission uses those resources through Amy Scott in the office in here in Bethel to help provide us all with more of a substantive plan and bring it to you, obviously?
So if you could regroup after hearing this presentation and put that to pen, and meet and put that to pen and bring it to
Right.
us again, so we can go through it and approve it, because it is an expenditure, and we would just need to review it and approve it. So
Yes, that's what
if we could-
I'm suggesting.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
suggesting
yeah.
information
Yeah.
so that all of us can make
Yeah, and if
an
if
informed
the
decision
commission
and
has
prioritize.
has that recommendation, please bring it to us so we can discuss it and
Mhm.
see what steps we can do to move forward.
Good.
And we did apply for that energy efficiency PRC, which if we got it, it is technical support. It's a person to help, so maybe they could help us get started on the 5-year plan, if we get it. But-
Yeah, that would
And
be,
there, yeah, so that.
We have a couple options there.
Yeah.
yeah.
So great. I'm glad there's a lot
We're on
of
the same page.
energy around it. So again, John's here. Do we have any specific questions for him?
And I'll be available, I've got spreadsheets galore that can help shape some things for you, answer your questions of these. So, I'm not very far away and you've got wonderful bakeries and skiing and other excuses to come up. But thank you for the opportunity to organize the utility bill information and at least do the first lift to say, oh, here are all the variables. And I really appreciate Scott and Toby's time, because they've got other things they need to do other than haul someone like me around. So some balancing act of assistance, technical assistance, but also being respectful to town staff and also the expertise that they offer. They really know their facilities very well. So that's the constant struggle with small town government is taking advantage of opportunities. And hopefully this will be a nice roadmap to get started.
Thank you.
I
Thanks,
think
Janet.
it is a good roadmap.
Yeah, it's
to
awesome.
start.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good information
Yeah.
that you collected for
Good.
us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
I'll send the bill tomorrow.
Thank you, Conservation Committee. And
Well, thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sometimes you get invoiced for a while.
Thanks, Dave, Toby, and Scott, too.
Yeah.
for-
Yes, thank you both.
Who writes that final report? So, is that, do we write it?
Yeah, well, I used to, but if you want to, that would be.
Okay, and then we just get it offline,
Yeah.
the final, like, saying we
I
spent all
can
the
send
money
it to you,
there.
the quarterly report, so Ashley, is it Ashley
Yeah.
sends it? She'll send it to you.
Oh,
I have a spreadsheet that has everything listed that we've spent,
okay,
and the final balance I'll list as administrative, and I can send that to you, so that you can have that spreadsheet.
so Ashley will send it to you and then it's sent to me.
I believe she sent it to you, I did pass it off
Okay.
to you.
I just don't know whether she officially knows, but I'll.
You guys can catch
If
up
you get it,
after.
send
We
it
can
to
catch up after, right? Okay. All right.
She was like, I wanna go home.
All right, thank you, everybody. We're going to continue on, and we're now at 10D, which is discussion and action to sign quitclaim deed for foreclosed property, map lot 728, originally owned by Northeast Wireless Networks and is now owned by AT&T. We have new information this evening that we're looking to table it.
Yes, until next week. This is one of the foreclosed properties that we have been able to find the owners, and everything has been paid. We're just waiting for final details on the quitclaim deed and the transfer deed, and we'll have that ready for you at the next meeting.
Okay, great.
Motion to table.
Thank you, second. Okay, any other questions? All those in favor? The motion passes unanimous. Table till the next meeting, which I think is the beginning of December,
12/4.
12/4, thank you. And we'll continue to 10E, discussion and action to approve who will pay the 1% required to be paid to the Paid Family Medical Leave Fund effective January 1st, 2024. You do have information in your packet on this new program that's going to start its funding at the state level January 1st. And then we have some action to take. Sharon, if your voice comes up, can you give us a little overview?
So this is a law that went into effect this past year, beginning January 1st. All private and public employers in the state of Maine have to contribute 1% of the qualified, those qualified in the payroll system. Basically, it's full-time and part-time employees, their gross wage. We have to pay 1% of that to the state of Maine. The town is required to pay the 1%. However, the town can pass on 50% of that 1% to the employees to pay, or they can pay it all themselves, but the town has to pay either 50% or 1% or the 1%. If you pass on the 50% of the 1% to the employee to pay beginning January 1st, that will come out of their checks, payroll deduction, and then it's sent to, their portal has not been set up. Stephanie and I are having a training on this on December 13th. And hopefully by that date, they're gonna have the rest of the information available. So when I gave you the memo, the estimated payroll, this is for the first 6 months, it would be approximately $6,000 that we would end up having to pay, which is the 1%. If we did the 50% of the 1%, the town would have to contribute $3,000. Otherwise, that comes out of the employees' individual checks. Now, the program is based on anyone who qualifies to go out on family medical leave. Right now, employees can go out on family medical leave up to 12 weeks under certain qualifications, under certain requirements that they meet. And they get paid if they have vacation time, sick time, or personal time. But if they have none of that, then they still can go out for the 12 weeks, they're just not paid. What the state did was put this program so that they now will be paid for that 12 weeks. However, the contribution to this program starts January 1, 2025. The program is not going to be available for employees to receive paid family medical leave until May 2026. So all this money's got to be paid into a fund in advance, and whether or not the discussion actually in Augusta was, when this was approved by the opposing side to this, was, is the 1% even going to be enough to fund a program this size if you have a lot of people going out on 12 weeks of medical leave? But that's not part of this charge. So what I'm asking you to do, because this has to be set up to happen January 1st, I need you to decide whether or not the town is going to pay the 1% of the wages for the eligible employees, or if you're going to pay 50% of the 1% and the employees are going to pay the other 50% of the 1%. Do you
So is
understand?
the majority of our employees eligible?
All of our full-time employees and our part-time are, so we have 16 full-time employees. They would all have to, we would have to pay the 1% on all of them. And then we have 3 at the transfer station that are part-time, 4. So they also would come under this category. We're waiting for clarification, but from what we know right now, stipend positions will not be, and others that are receiving stipend positions like board committees, etc. So it would be part-time and full-time from what we know right now. So 20 people.
Thanks, Sharon. Do you guys have any questions, Sharon, on that? From what I've been hearing from other towns, many of the towns are splitting it with their employees, 50-50%. And I'm inclined to do that just because it's a mandatory benefit, and other mandatory benefits such as Social Security and Medicare, they're all 50-50 employer contributes and employee contributes. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. From what I've heard, like at MMA and such, there's questions out there, implementation questions, so who knows what this is going to look like after the first of the year, or when they give it, when the state gives it more attention. But like Sharon said, this is our
45 people do 12 weeks.
right.
It says nothing what it's gonna do to the labor department, the labor situation in the state.
Yeah.
There's not enough labor out there as it is. Who covers the?
The way I looked at it, I feel like that's fair, but I also think that we have the insurance, question on here as well, and if we save money there, I mean, I was thinking like 1%, so if someone makes $2,000, it's $20. Are we really gonna gripe over $10 for the staff? I don't necessarily think we should, especially if we can make a little, money back on, upgrading or redoing our insurance. If we can have a cost savings there, then the $10 feels insignificant to me.
Except when you start to multiply it by how many employees you have.
$160.
Well, you start to multiply it and put it
Yeah,
in the budget.
And then if it goes up, because it's not covering enough,
Right, but
we don't know
I
what's
mean,
gonna go up.
if we had our little crystal ball, but, yeah, and the other piece for me was, and the other feedback, and I kind of agree, is, we can always change it later, but at least until we know more information about this, program, splitting it seemed to be, fair.
Well, could the same apply the other direction, if it moves up to 5%?
For me, I hate to give something and then take it away, I'd rather give something more at a later date, if you were in that position.
I'll just say this, I don't know what all other towns are doing, but the Oxford Board of Selectmen voted last meeting to do the 50/50. One of the arguments, not arguments, but the discussion points was that it is mandatory,
Yeah.
like and Medicare, and those are 50/50. So that was one of the reasons for doing that. If it goes up and you commit right now to the full 1%, would that be the expectation to pay the full at that time too? If you do the 50/50 now, then you can look at it if or when it ever goes up. But I do know that the Oxford Board voted because I was part of that board.
And the Maine Municipal Association for their employees voted the same.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, they do have last week. But I guess I would make a motion, on, the paid family medical leave, that we split the 1%, 50/50, the employer and employees for this fund effective January 1st, 2025.
Do you wanna put a, time frame on that? Like for that year, or just leave it open?
Just leave it open for now until we learn more.
I'll second it.
Do we have any other discussion, questions, comments?
I don't know, I think I really would, it would be better to have a time frame on it, so that it's a subject that is addressed every year.
I would say I would go the other way.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Not for the time.
Not put a time frame on it.
I think we're gonna learn more, and I think we're gonna have an opportunity to visit again.
It's just
All
a
right.
suggestion.
Yeah, no, all thoughts are good. Any other thoughts? All right, all those in favor? And it's unanimous, the motion passes. Thank you. Okay, the next item, 10F, we'll be taking no action. Perhaps Sharon can explain why, and this is the discussion and action to increase the town clerk's salary to the minimum salary threshold effective January 1st, 2025. And I think in your seat is a handout that will assist that explanation.
Also, actions and
See?
actions and taken off of that, recommendation.
Right, and the reason it's been taken off is, just to update everybody, since it was on the agenda, is that at the 9th hour last night, employers received this memo from the Department of Labor that the federal overtime rule was blocked. And that rule set a threshold for the overtime pay for salary positions, and we would have had one situation as it was on our agenda. So since that's been blocked, that the Department of Labor of the State of Maine said that starting January 1st, 2025, the new minimum salary threshold in Maine will be $845.21 per week, or $43,951 per year. So we don't no longer have applicability to this program.
They reverted it back to what it was originally before they increased it. So,
Okay. So we will be taking no action on that. Thank you. We're gonna continue with 10G, discussion concerning the W.H.A.T changes and increase effective January 1st, 2025, and W.H.A.T is essentially the health insurance program. And we do have that in your packet as well. Sharon put together a pretty comprehensive packet here on it, and the impacts, and the spreadsheet, and again, if your voice continues, if you wouldn't mind walking us through it.
so every year, the Health Trust, Maine Municipal Employees Health Trust is what the initials stand for. They set the new rates for their calendar year program on October 31st, and then we received our increases the first week in November. All medical plans have increased by 9% this year. There were 6 plans. They eliminated their top plan, which was the POSA, and now they have their 4 remaining plans, 5 remaining plans, excuse me. And they were like called POSC, POS 200. They've given them new names like Acadia, Baxter, W.H.A.T, and Hempstead. What I did was I put together, I gave you a sheet showing what all of the premiums were going to be January 1st from the 5 plans. I put that together on a spreadsheet so you could see under the employee only and the family coverage what it cost for premiums a year, what it will cost in 2025. So bottom line, if you have a family plan, the Health Trust is charging us $29,794.92. You can find that under Pemaquid, Bethel 2025, Pemaquid PPO 2500. That's what it's gonna cost us per employee for next year. In addition to that, we give each employee $10,000 under a health reimbursement account that they can get reimbursed up to $10,000 for deductibles and medical expenses that are not covered, and then $500 under a flexible spending account. So the family coverage will cost us per employee $40,294.92. Above and below, if you have a single plan, it will cost $1,872.56. So if you look across into the first column, and I will say that the Pemaquid 250 plan, 2500 plan we have, it's the lowest plan they have, offers the least amount of coverage, and it has the highest deductibles. 2,500 for single and 5,000 for a family coverage. If you look at the Acadia POSC plan, which is the very best plan, there's a summary sheet in your packet for each of these plans that tells you what the deductible is, what the services that are covered and how much is paid. Under the Acadia plan, you'll see that the majority of services that someone receives will be paid at 90 to 100% versus those same and there's no deductible. Versus in the Pemaquid plan that we have, it is 80%. And a lot of what's covered in the Acadia plan is not covered in the Pemaquid plan. So that's why, the employees were offered the HRA plan, as I was understanding of it. The 5,000 and the 10,000 to help offset the cost of the heightened benefits. So if we eliminated the plan that we have now that we're paying for the employees, and we added, that's gonna cost for a family plan $40,294, and replaced it with the best plan, that plan's only gonna cost $36,468. But we would not offer the health reimbursement with it because it's a much better plan. And then on the bottom, in the salmon color, that's where I did my comparison, because we have 16 full-time employees eligible for insurance. 4 have the employee-owned policy, 9 have the family policy, 2 only have life, 1 has no coverage. So we would save by going from the Pemaquid 25 in 2025 to the Acadia plan, we would save $44,541 for the calendar year of 2025. And that would give the employees the number one and best insurance policy that there is for their medical. That would be my recommendation. I wanted to, I don't know how much of
Very
this,
straightforward.
I don't know how much of this information would ever been provided before to see how all this works. But I thought it was important that you see what every plan pays, what the deductibles are in each of the plans, what the savings are. And I think this is, it will benefit the town, and I think even more importantly, it benefits the insurance coverage for the employees.
And thank you very much for putting this together. The health insurance for municipalities, most of them go through MMA, and it's been a whole changeover because of increase in prices and such. So thank you very much for taking this and explaining to us. It runs the calendar year, so it's a little bit different than our budget year. That's what I've noticed too on these things. And also, Bethel provides the 100% coverage of the premium. Not every town does that, so we do that for our employees. That is, you know, when you talk about benefit package, that's a big piece of the benefit package.
It is.
So it's just something that I've observed. I think you explained it well. I'm gonna go ahead and move that we change the offering of plans to the Acadia POSC. Is that what you're looking
Yes, effective January 1st.
Effective January 1st, 2025.
Second.
So are there any questions? All right, hearing none, all those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Thank you for putting that all together.
And I will have a memo and a discussion for all the departments explaining their changes and all of that.
Great. Very good. Okay, we're on to H, 10H, discussion and action to approve the wastewater treatment plant budget for fiscal year 2025. You have an updated spreadsheet on your table. And I would ask Sharon again if she could just kind of walk us and tell us where we're at with it.
So I updated this from our last meeting when I presented it to you. Where the changes I needed to make, and I did those were under the descriptions, under the debt service, which is on the 3rd page. listed it showing when the last payment was due. Stephanie and I went over this today again. Some of the dates, I had 24 and 25. So I removed some of the description and hope it's a little clearer. The payments are the same except for one of them. We did receive a credit on one of them, so it lowered the payment on the Clark Street loan payment from $11,597 to $9,014.84. Now, in the budget last week, I put that we were going to need $225,000 for the, what was needed for the Northern Borders grant, $1 million grant we got, because we need to, it's 20% match, which was $200,000, and then the other 25 was engineering costs for Weston and Sampson. So if you look on the fourth page, I've taken the 225 out, so let's go back to page 3. It shows that the budget now for fiscal year 25 is going to be $745,864.15. That's without the 225,000. You'll notice the current budget year we're in, the budget was $820,778. We only spent $685,421 of that. So Toby and I worked on this quite a bit, and what we actually need for this Northern Borders grant is $250,000, and I put that explanation in on the third page in the bottom. So the $250,000 is needed. It will cover the 20% of the $1 million, which is the $200,000. It also is going to pay for AvCog, who is the local development district contractor who is contracted to provide the services for quarterly reporting, reimbursement requests, final reporting, and the general assistance overall for the grant requirements. That's $20,000. And then the other $30,000 is for the engineering services to Western and Sampson. That's basically to pay for everything before the grant, because what they did for engineering prior to the grant is not actually covered in the grant. So excuse me, we need the $250,000 for that. Now, I had a long discussion with Karen today, who is the auditor that came last week, and I talked about the two different ways putting this in the budget that is approved. That's not the recommended way that she thinks it should be done, because you'll remember at the meeting when she gave the budget presentation, we have over $4 million in undesignated fund balance. And she is suggesting that, and I agree with her, that we have to go to a special town meeting to raise additional funds for some various things. This would be one of them. We would be asking for the $250,000 to come from the undesignated fund balance. And if we put the money in the budget, in the sewer budget, then the expectation is they have to pay that back to the town. Their debt is more than what it should be right now. And for fiscal year 23, they came out in the red. They're going to for the year they're budgeting now, and they will for this year. So even though they're listed as an enterprise account, they're still a town department, if you will. And by taking the money from the undesignated fund balance to take care of this need for the sewer district, it will eliminate a debt there. So this is how they're recommending this. Now, you'll notice when I did the revenue on page 4, the revenue is estimated at $750,000. Last year, the revenue was estimated at $820,000, which was the exact amount of the budget, because that's how it's worked with a enterprise account. The revenue has to equal the budget, the budget. So we received in the fiscal year 2024 in sewer receipts, $748,684. A lot less than what they estimated being the $804,000. It doesn't make sense to estimate what you know you're not gonna, there's no way we were gonna take in $804,000 based on the number of accounts and what the averaging of those bills coming in was gonna be. So we came up far short of revenue there. 750 is a better reporting of what the revenue will actually be collected. And then we do take in a small amount for septic dumping. So according to this, we should take in a few thousand more than what the budget actually is. And I feel this is pretty, a good conservative budget. Last year, the budget was a lot higher than really what it should have been. So, that's, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, I follow that. So if we wanted to have a balanced budget for the operating, the total expenses look to be on page 3, 745,000 plus, and then on page 4, the revenue is 753.5. So whatever that is, $7,000 or so, where would you want to put those 7,000 to make it a balanced budget?
In the expense line,
Yeah.
I would probably just reduce the revenue to balance up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't increase any amount in the expense budget. I would reduce the revenue.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
That
so
that
the
would
revenue
have,
is a
because
little lower.
it's
than the-
better to underestimate your revenue, because if it doesn't come in, then
Or if
you're.
it's estimated today.
Yes,
instead of-
so
Yeah.
we don't need that insurance money in that account now. And if we just vote to reappropriate the money that way. And so we would look at that, that way we would come out cleaner at the end of fiscal year 25. But I'll have a draft ready for the next meeting for you to take a look at.
Great, thank you. Bless you.
Thank you. I tried really hard not to sneeze on that.
So it doesn't sound like we need to take action by vote on this, but it sounds like we have a consensus on the path that we're gonna take. Once we have the information, that we're gonna get a draft warrant of the information we would look to put on a special town meeting. Of course, before it gets to a special town meeting, we'll have, we'll be working with the budget committee as well, so we come up with dates and stuff like that too. So is everybody good with that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, that gives direction to Sharon. Thank you. All right, we're now on.
Oh, sorry, I'm
Oh, I didn't know if you had something. All right, we're now on to the warrants. So discussion and action to approve AP warrant 2024-44 in the amount of $447,782.10. And I'll move that.
Second.
And we did have that in our packet. If there's any questions? I did have one, just in general, I see a couple of items related to Bingham Land and inland woods and trails. And perhaps, so it sounds, maybe the Bingham Forest Committee is being active, I don't know.
So what page you on, and I can,
Yeah.
this should be two of those.
Page 5 is the town of Murray and the Bingham Land, maybe that's taxes, I don't know.
I think that, yeah,
Is that
not
taxes?
taxes for the-
So town of Newry is the second half of the tax payment.
Great.
I had intended for the full tax payment to be paid when we made the first half. This is the remainder of it.
Okay, so that's tax. And then on page 9, it looks like trail work maybe for August
Yes.
1st through the 31st.
Yes, when they came and met with us a few months ago, when we had the update on their new balancing, they asked for up to $10,000 in the trail work to be paid. And this is their second invoice that they've submitted payment for to Northern Woods.
Okay, so their second one is where they close to using their 10 or?
Inland Woods. They haven't gone over it. I will look at what the first payment was because I don't remember right now what it was. And I just know that it's not gonna total the 10, and I can let you know what that total is and what their balance is.
And I guess really for me is not so much the money, but looking for an update from them. We'd love to know if they could give us an update or whenever they meet next, because didn't we also engage a forester for another forestry plan?
Yes, and they should be giving us a report showing what they want to do for cutting. And I did actually get last night from Ned, he sent me the new forestry plan. And he also updated our tree growth plan. And I sent that to Rob today. And I got the invoice for that this morning and the tree growth plan. So I haven't yet received their contract for what they want to do for cutting for this winter. I'm sure that'll follow next.
Okay. Maybe that'd be a good time to have the Bingham Forest Committee come in, just like to get an update on that.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great, thank you. Anybody else have any questions? I did have another one on page 5 as well. I know it's gotta be for some capital project, it's the white sign for $105,000.
That was to pay for Scott's,
Tractor, sign on tractor.
yes,
There you go.
the word white sign,
Yeah,
when I first saw it on the invoice. It
Yeah,
was
white sign, central equipment.
Yeah, that's what it is.
because it came out here, sidewalk chalk, so it must be something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and-
Perfect, all right, you got it. Which reminds me, nice to have the roof on the little covered bridge.
Yeah,
Oh,
it does
yes,
look
and
good.
I didn't, Scott told me that had been completed the other day, and I should put that on my report.
Any other questions?
There's something in here about ambulance, $100 charges.
That's probably the charge, what do you call it again?
For the paramedic.
Yes,
Or maybe additional support?
because, yes, when they have to call for extra.
Okay.
Or intercept, right? That's what it's
Yes,
called.
yeah, and they're always $100 charges.
Any others?
None of those physicals aren't covered by insurance. Medical physical. You got full value at the top.
They're not in the delivery fuel world either.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Oh, they weren't for like, I did do it, like, coach that, you know, they make you like, it trains and like walk for feet.
All right, so if there are any more questions, all those in favor? All right, motion carries unanimous. I believe there is not a second one,
No,
right?
I
So-
put that there in case there was, but there was not.
And thank you for including the payroll warrant, so you have a copy of that on your desk. Okay, we move on to select board items. Does anybody have any items?
Well, I brought up earlier just the emergency management plan. When Meryl and I went, it was emphasized that it's the responsibility of the select board to make sure the plan is in place. So I was just wondering do we need to do any work on that? Just because we're getting to that time of year, what I'm sure happens, so I was wondering if there's anything we need to work on.
Or update.
Is that the plan that Oxford County presented to us? It's a 5-year plan, and they recently updated it.
Yes, they updated it after the storm last year, I believe, but, like, our town is supposed to have a kind of, like, basic ask plan and then specific. And I think maybe it's just, I mean, from my perspective, I think it's just nice to know, like, what the select board should do and what they shouldn't do, and I appreciated that we weren't losing anything.
But he did have some good suggestions about having like a rank, like who, so he said we should never be in charge of more than 5 people, I think.
Well,
Like
that was,
That's the emergency plan.
yeah, that's in the emergency plan,
Yeah.
that's kind of like
Okay.
Joe who would put that together as our emergency point person. But I think really what the select board members would have, part in is more, if there was something that Josie wanted us to handle, so that he didn't have to screen 95,000 phone calls while he was in the middle of pulling someone out of the raging river. He didn't have to do that. Like, so if there was something set in place, like, okay, select board, like, when this happens, you can tell everybody if a warning shelter is to come up, it would be at this place. It's not in place now because of this reason. We'll let you know if it opens, when it's open, like, just so that there's a point person who is already known, so that we don't end up in a situation where there's like 9,000 cooks in the kitchen, which I feel like we definitely read into those letters, like last year's stuff, where like, people all well-meaning doing like the same thing Sharon is trying to do. And it's like, maybe it's like Sharon's doing something, she could finish it, or if we can, yeah, just having more of a set plan of like who's in charge of what.
So we could ask Mike to run our plan.
So, Mike did get copies of that plan from the county because we couldn't find them here. And I made copies for all the department heads and passed those out. It was the intent for all the department heads to start working on revising that plan. What is done is, just like what you said, they all work on it together, but the roles are all designated.
Yeah.
So that when a disaster comes, everybody knows what they're
Who's in
charged to do. And it doesn't list it by name, it lists it by titles, because those change.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's probably something that we should talk about, scheduling a meeting so that the department heads can start, looking at the plan and each taking sections within their departments to figure out what the roles in those, I'll sit down at Dave, what the roles in those departments are going to be and how we're going to change them. But I could get those meetings set up.
And then as it starts to gel together, the role, if any of the select board plays,
Well,
the
the
town
select-
manager
Yeah.
plays.
And
and
the
stuff
select
like
board
that.
does play roles in
Yeah.
it as well.
But just knowing what they are before.
Yeah.
That's always nice.
So that's great. Thanks, Sharon. It sounds like we have a little bit of work on the department level before it comes to us, and then we can.
I don't think I made copies of that plan for you, the select board members, but I will get copies too as well.
Yeah.
And then the first of the year can schedule those meetings for department, the department heads to do it,
Thank you.
if that's okay.
I'll reach the plan, because I know I wrote other things.
Yeah, I I mean, I thought another thing that I took away from it is that we talked about how educating the public a little bit about, the plant, and especially like during the storm where people kept going out and getting caught crossing roads, but like, maybe we just build that education piece into our special town meeting, and that, have something just something a little, just so people start to understand, like, you're actually putting,
We're gonna find it.
well, no, you're putting our, our employees in danger, but, or making life so much more complicated to be out there, just safe.
It's probably never ending, but.
No,
it's
never
just
ending,
keep
Reminding
put-
people like
Right.
who you're affecting when you do that.
There may be a place for that, sure, yep. Anything else? I had,
Make a motion to adjourn.
I had an update for you guys
Nice
on.
try, Pat.
A couple things you might wanna know. The assessors had their meeting last week, and, it was their first meeting after the tax, bills went out. We didn't receive any chatter at the meeting, and staff hadn't received any big issues or problems, which was nice to hear. We, tasked our assessor agent, Rob DePlessis, RGD Appraisal Services, to bring back to the next meeting, which is in January, a proposal for a revaluation. So, let you guys, know that, we'll know more then, and, if we proceed, and of course you all will be involved with it, because the assessors will bring a recommendation to the select board. So, I'm putting with that. And, just two more quick things. One, as a group, I just wanted to review how to get items onto the meeting, agenda items. I wanted to just bring that up because it shouldn't be personal. It's a process, it's in our code. And what we've been practicing, because we've had so much is happening, we're trying to get caught up, we're trying to get our basis. Staff is really, plowing through stuff. So what has ended up being in practice is that if the public or if the select board has any items that they want to put onto the agenda, we put it in writing and give it to the town manager, filter, on Fridays, by at least the Friday before the Wednesday meeting. And then the town manager puts together the agenda and places it in, where it can fit in and how many things. Like I don't know if you noticed that we wanted to review the fees tonight, but we had other stuff that came up, but it's still on the agenda, it's just not gonna be another meeting. So I just wanted to kind of go over that, to try to take the personal piece out of it, and know that we do have a system, informal but practical, and so I just want to share that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, just so.
So we have a little backup.
Mhm.
We probably could,
Probably.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
just like that Friday deadline or whatever, it would help if people could look up like, oh, I want to.
What's the problem?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
right, and I can tell you, somebody asked me about their liquor license, I was telling them that, and, I mean, that might be helpful,
Well,
and,
that's always been like my assumption, but I never knew if it was like a firm policy or what, and if it's just written down somewhere, then it doesn't feel personal.
right. And
And
then
the
we
personal goes 2 ways.
right, exactly, so,
Yeah.
and then the other piece that's just kind of me, but I think we're all sharing it, if someone wants to be on the agenda, that they should solicit it, put it in writing.
Yeah.
Which I think most people do, but I just wanted to, share that, and this way Sharon actually has a way to keep it all organized.
Paper trails.
Yeah. So I just wanted to go over that, I don't really want to have a situation that we had before. But we do, and there's reasons why, we have what we have in the code. The code, of course, there's the state code that you need, FOA that you need to post for your meetings. And then our code tries to bring in good governance, and saying that you need to have an agenda. And once the agenda, that's part of the transparency. Once an agenda is posted, then the public knows what's going to be on there. If we start changing it up at the last minute, then that kind of causes a little bit of confusion. Although the townspeople have allowed us to be able to do that, and we can only do that by unanimous vote. So, and that's in the code. But Great, sounds like we're on the same page, then if we can let.
Yeah, if we have both of
finish
that.
now. That'd be great. And then the, yeah, thank you. And then the last thing, really quick, I wanted to bring you an update from the county budget meeting last evening. As you've been aware of that process, we've been involved in that process, the public hearing on the FY 2025 county budget, Oxford County budget. The public hearing was in October. They run the calendar year, they don't, their fiscal year is a calendar year, it's not like ours. So, their budget season is now. Last night was the advisory committee's review and approval of the budget. So as you heard prior to, the airport committee and us, the select board, wanted to put in a request for monies for the airport, $5,000. So in that process, somehow we got caught up in the process where we didn't know that there was a deadline for that. I don't know if you guys knew about that,
Yeah,
so you know about that. So, and then we had a public hearing. They wouldn't hear from us there on the floor. So, they did provide an alternative to have WH.A.T solicit the committee members directly. Sharon did that. So I called it on the floor. So myself and the Freiburg representative put it on the floor because the commissioners did not put it in their draft. And if the motion failed on a 4-4 on a tie, so it was 4-4, the motion failed. The committee's made up of 9 members, 3 from each district. So the 9th member didn't show, and that 9th member this year was appointed from Newry. Had that person shown, maybe it would have been positive. So I wanted to share that with you.
Thanks for trying.
My thought is that we go down there in January.
Try again.
Yeah. So that's all I have for updates. Hearing none, any other comments, then,
Make a motion to adjourn.
all those in favor? Thank you, everyone. Thank you.